first paper that you're going to write this quarter is a descriptive analysis, which is essentially just a fancy way of saying summary. You're essentially just going to be summarizing an article that you're reading out of the textbook. So while this sounds really simple and easy, summary can be actually quite difficult because it's your job to analyze that article, pick out the main points that are the most important, and then reword, rephrase, and ultimately regurgitate those main points for your reader. So your job is not to analyze or to interpret or to do anything like that other than just to analyze for the most important information. And then again, you are just going to objectively state, so-and-so says, he then states, and so on. So you're not evaluating, not making an argument of any kind. You're just presenting information that is presented in the article itself. So this is the paper's prompt that will be posted online. There will also be the paper's grading rubric, which I will show you in just a moment. So make sure that you go through and read this sheet verbatim so that you know exactly what's expected of you. I'm just going to give you the general overview in this video. So watch the video and then read everything in depth so that you know exactly what's expected of you. So the purpose is to help you write a focused description of a piece of writing. And it really is just a foundational step in analysis. You can't analyze something if you don't understand what something's about. And that's what this paper helps you do. It helps you read an article and learn what the main points are and how to rephrase that in your own words and to do it in an organized and logical manner. So let's see here. The format, of course, needs to use an MLA heading, page numbers, margin, so on and so forth. You must have a works cited page at the end of your paper that lists the article source information from the textbook. I've showed you how to do this online, so make sure you do that correctly. Also, within your essay, you need to use quotations, paraphrases, and summaries. And for every time that you do that, you have to have in-text citation that is formatted, according to MLA standards. So make sure you have your works cited page, make sure you use direct quotes and other references, and then use in-text citation for every reference from the text that you use. And again, I help you on Canvas with how to do that properly. So please take the time to review that if you need to, and then do it correctly in your essay. So here's the assignment itself. You need to reread what a summary is in Chapter 7. Then you need to read September 11th, A National Tragedy by James Peck. This is the article that you are going to be summarized. It's on page 734 in the textbook. Then after you have read this article, write a 2-page objective summary of that article. Make sure that you use Peck as the focus. Do not present the information that Peck writes as just general information. Make sure you attribute that work to him. So you're going to say Peck states, Peck does this, he then says. All of the information in your essay is coming from Peck, and if it's not, you shouldn't be including it in your paper, of course. So make sure that you attribute all of the ideas back to Peck. Sometimes students will write their paper and they'll introduce Peck in the introduction, and then they won't mention him again, and that's not the point of a summary. The point of a summary is to summarize what Peck's article was about. And you can't do that without referencing Peck. So please focus on him as the author of the article and as the originator of these ideas. Also, make sure in your introduction that you introduce who Peck is, what his article is, and the main point that he states, as well as the main point of your essay. In your body paragraphs, you're going to develop the main points that Peck states in his article, and then you're going to conclude your summary as a whole. A lot of times students will conclude by ending Peck's article, if that makes sense. They focus on his, but you need to draw back out and conclude your essay as a whole, not just what Peck said. So make sure that your conclusion is more effective than just saying, and the last thing he says is this. Well, that doesn't conclude your paper. It concludes the article, but you have to conclude your paper separately. It's important for you to note that your audience is not your instructor, aka me. It is someone who has never read or heard of this article, so you have to do a really good job giving all of the vital information that they need to know in order to understand it. Also, make sure that you do not narrate, do not use you, stick with really good academic standards for writing that I've covered. So again, you don't need to narrate, and please don't use you. All right, the assessment for this essay, you will get points for turning it in on time. and then it's going to be one of the essays that you can include in your portfolio at the end of the quarter. So it's not going to receive a traditional grade, but I will give you feedback. I will tell you where your paper is falling at this point, and then you use my feedback and comments to help revise your summary for your portfolio. Again, I'm going to have a grading rubric posted online that will show you the breakdown of the grade and how I will grade it in the portfolio, and I will provide feedback on that for you after you turn it in. Also, in the rubric, or not the rubric, excuse me, in this prompt, you will find a list of very specific criteria. So if you use this as a checklist, and if you have all of these in place, then you know that your essay is going to do well. So in terms of formatting, you have to make sure that your summary is 2 pages long, or it's not going to even pass. Make sure your margins are correct, your heading is correct, so on and so forth. Then with your content, make sure that your introduction includes an effective overview of the article and the author. Make sure it contains a thesis statement, use transitions, so on and so forth. So read through this checklist and make sure that your paper meets all of these standards, in addition to the grading rubric, which we will jump to right now. So here's paper number 1's grading rubric. It is broken down into the different categories that I'm going to look for in your paper, including content, organization, your sources, and in this case, it's not sources in terms of your research, but you are using a source, which is Peck's article. Also, your convention. So let me slow it down. So you've got these categories of information that I'm going to grade, and these are the different levels of meeting those standards. So you can be exemplary, proficient, developing, or emerging. And then just like with the prompt, you need to read this in depth. I'm not going to bore you to death with going over every word of it. So make sure you read it in its entirety. Make sure you understand everything. But for example, say that when I return this with feedback, I might say, okay, your content is exemplary, your organization is proficient, your sources and citations are proficient, and your conventions are, say, developing. So I will show you where you're falling for each of your papers. So again, make sure that you go through, make sure you read and understand what each level includes for each of the different areas that I'm looking at. Make sure your main thesis is in place, things like that. So again, I'm not going to go in depth to this because I don't want to waste your precious time. But if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to let me know. You know that you can chat with me online anytime you like. Just email me and give me times that work for you. I can also look over drafts of your essays well before they're due. So just let me know if you'd like me to look those over. So use the grading rubric, use the paper prompt, and all the information that you need to complete this assignment well is here. So if you have any questions, just let me know.